Hello everyone, my name is Brendan Snyder. Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to another episode of New Music Finds. So this is where I like to collect up everything that I've purchased over the past week. You guys see my New Music Now videos, and those are ones where I unbox stuff right as I get it. Those are a lot of fun. You get to see the excitement. It's kind of like the kid in the candy store sort of thing. But now this video here is where I collect everything together that I've purchased over the past week and run through it with you, but I also get to give you a little bit of a deeper assessment on it because I've had a chance to listen to it and so forth. So got a bunch of things here to run through with you, and we'll do that in just a bit. But before we get started, if you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things help support my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by subscribing, you'll be able to stay up to date on all that's going on in the world of music, just like this with another episode of New Music Finds. So now normally we kick off with new releases, and this past week we did have a new release. It was a brand new Iggy Pop album that came out. Unfortunately, mine has not arrived at the time of filming this, so you'll see that in next week's episode of New Music Finds. But, or it might appear in one of the New Music Now. We'll have to wait and see. But, for this, I also hit up a music store, got some eBay things here, so I had a lot of cool finds this past week. And first one up that I want to show you guys is my Mr. I Wear the Face. So this one here was a real unexpected good album. It's the debut album by Mr. Richard Page fronting the group. And if you guys don't know, Richard Page has done a number of other things. He was in a group called Third Matinee. He also did a solo album, wrote for a lot of people, stuff like that. So it's not just the songs that we know by Mr. He's, been out there a lot. So definitely worth exploring the full catalog of the band Mr. And I'd gotten this on vinyl first, and it just kind of blew my mind. It was just one of those things that I took a chance on. It was a $2 record, and it turned out to be so good. So much so I had to buy the CD edition of it. This is actually a Japanese edition reissue that came out in 2017. And when I was buying it, I didn't know that. I thought I was actually getting some, and when I say original pressing, but I just mean one from back in the 80s. And when I got this, I was very excited to be getting a Japanese edition of it and potentially a remastered edition. Not exactly sure. Nothing came with it saying anything of the such, but if it was coming out in 2017, probably was. So kind of cool. So this one here, same sort of thing, took a chance on some stuff from Rick Springfield, buying a greatest hits, and found out that I really enjoyed the other albums that came out from the 80s. And also, I would say, if I had just checked them out by the singles, I probably wouldn't have picked them up, which is why I haven't in 30, almost 40 plus years of these things. But I've been slowly adding these to my collection now over the last week or so. And this one here, new one, Dow, well, new for me anyways, that came out, and I think this is 19, just trying to scan real quickly on the back to see, I think this is 85 on here. Normally they put these things real prominent on the inside, and I'm not finding it here, but yeah, I think this is his 1985 album. But yeah, so as he moved from the early 80s, where it's more straight ahead rock, into what became, more of the pop rock of the 80s kind of a stuff, more complex recordings and things of that nature, relying on synthesizer and all that sort of stuff. Normally I would say, yeah, I probably wouldn't have been interested in this stuff, but you know what? Being on the kick of the new wave stuff and the electronic sounds and things that came from that, the album Living in Oz and then this one, Dow, just really clicked with me. Celebrate Youth. When I first heard that song, I thought, whoa, boy, did he really try his hand at a pop hit of the time. And that's when I was listening to the greatest hits. But you know what? Now I really love that song. So it's on this album. Get to check this out. But the last song on here, My Father's Chair, is really good on here. Of course, it has State of the Heart on it, and just a number of other really good tracks. What I found that was interesting is that Rick Springfield's first 4 albums, and again, I know I keep doing this, first 4 as in from the 80s, because I know he had 4 albums prior to that starting in 1972. So What is this? Well, this would make it maybe the 7th or 8th album in his collection, maybe 9th even, because the first 4 included the soundtrack Hard to Hold as well. But they all went platinum. That was my point, was those albums, starting with Working Class Dog, Success Hasn't Spoiled Me, Living in Oz, Hard to Hold, all those went platinum. I think Dow went gold, but I didn't realize that he had been so successful in the 80s. So that was kind of a cool thing, because I'm really enjoying it. He gets a bad rap, you know, as a pretty boy, you know, teen idol kind of a thing. But Rick Springfield's really a whole lot more than that. Another one from the 80s, The Outfield, Bangin', their second album. Never understood this album cover. We got a baby in a diaper standing on what I think is supposed to be a mound, like a pitcher's mound. No baseball in his hand or anything like that. So not sure why this is the cover for Bangin'. Kind of weird. There's a song on here that's called Bangin' on My Heart, which makes a lot of sense that it might be called that, but weird in terms of the album cover. Now, I love the debut album by The Outfield. There's 3 really big hits on that. I don't actually recognize anything on Bangin'. Maybe that's why I never picked this one up here. Turned out it was the last Outfield album that I didn't have in my collection. I do own their whole catalog, including reunion era albums and replay and stuff like that that have you know, older songs that they worked up into you know, completing those and getting those out and so forth. But I just thought I'd had this one in the collection, I guess, and had overlooked it, had not come across it used. And when I suddenly realized that, being in a new wave kick, I was able to get this. But this one's a much more somber affair. It's not quite as big pop over the top as the debut album is, and some of the later albums that had bigger singles on them, at least bigger ones, meaning in terms that stood out from my mind, because I really came into the group, yes, knowing the stuff from the 80s, but buying a greatest hits album of theirs in the 90s when I realized that I knew something from this group. And so my knowledge of them really comes from having first listened to that and then explored the album. So of course those songs are going to stand out to me. But yeah, this one, it's a good album, but it doesn't really have that big hit that sort of knocks you across the head on. At least that's my take on it. Maybe it'll really grow on me in time, but I'm so glad to have it. And then I picked up Canadian band Streetheart, and it's self-titled release. I actually thought this was their debut album simply because it is a self-titled release. Don't know a whole lot about this band, but turns out it's actually their 5th album. So there's 4 albums before this, and I found that out after making that announcement when I first talked about this, getting it in the mail, you know, showing you guys during a New Music Now episode. But then found out when I was looking it up and reading about it and going, wow, okay, there's 4 more albums before this, because I have the albums that come after this that Rock Candy Records reissued. So this is good though, because I found out this one came out after or right before the album, and I think it's called Dancing with Danger. That one is a great album. While I don't really care for that album cover very much, it's kind of a silly one. The album is stupendous. So I was glad to find out this was the one that was right before it, because it has a lot of that vibe to it, and great to get that on here and be able to check that out. So, all right, next batch of things comes from hitting up a brand new record store, Vinyl Addiction. Had a lot of fun there. The store itself is actually run by a friend of Anthony from Sound Exchange, another record store I hit up a lot. And you see Anthony in my videos and whatnot. So Anthony had been announcing, or not announcing, but telling me about the store for some time. And I thought I'd finally head over and check it out. I'm really glad I did. It was a cool place. I did shoot a Let's Go to the Record Store segment on it. So leave a link in the description. You can check that out. But here's the things I picked up from it. We'll stay on the CDs. So first thing being, Brian Wilson, self-titled solo album from 1988 in a long box. And no, I haven't taken it out of the plastic just yet. I'm going to. It was $10, so good deal on it. Yeah, I know I kind of want to leave it in it, and I'm sort of savoring it for a little bit, just eyeing it and looking at it, but I'm going to crack into it because I did buy it to get the album, not just to get the long box, but the long box was what intrigued me and grabbed me to go ahead and just pull the trigger and pick it up. So, yeah, you know, it's interesting. It's kind of cool too because it's got the executive producer note on the back from Dr. Eugene Landy, the psychiatrist that was later found to not really have contributed to any of this and had his credits removed from it, but that's still on the back of it because this is from back in the day. And I was on a big Steve Winwood kick, and so the album, one of the albums I didn't have, turns out there's like 3 that I don't have, or 2 left now, but Arc of a Diver I did not have. It never picked this up, and I went into Vinyl Addiction and they didn't have it out on the floor, but I asked the guy that owns the store, and turns out that he did have it in the back, and he went and found it and cleaned it and put it together in a plastic and everything for me, and got it for a whole $7. So good deal on that. And was listening to this yesterday while being on my Steve Winwood kick, and just really hitting the spot. And it's always great when that happens, when you can go to a record store and buy something that you're on a kick listening to, and have more of it. And that just, to me, makes it even better. One of those being, because I just showed you guys this Steve Winwood, I found this one, Beautiful Feelings. This is actually a 1978 album. I believe it was the last, or one of the last albums right before recording Working Class Dog. But it was shelved and it didn't come out until 1984, after he had hit it big. And so none of the tracks on here really stand out or are that amazing. Certainly understandable why Working Class Dog was the big album that it was. But this one here grabbed my attention because of a couple things. One, when reading about it, the first track that's on here, Bruce, which is a song about his being confused with Bruce Springsteen, people thinking that's who he is because his name was Springfield so close, was actually a top 40 hit for him. Again, he had nothing to do with this album coming out at the time, but as I read about it, they said that they went in, re-recorded the music on it, livening it up for the 80s. They put it out in 1984 to capitalize on his success. He didn't have anything to do with it at that time. It was a shelved album, and so that song comes out, but the general public doesn't know about it, and they're clamoring for anything Rick Springfield, and of course that song shoots up the charts, and he ends up having a minor hit with it. Not that great of a song, but just kind of a cool story that happened. All right, and the final thing from Vinyl Addiction was this album that I took a chance on, Phoenix, in full view. I haven't done any research to really see if I can learn anything specific about the group, but I just, took a look at it. I said, it looks like a cool album cover here, and looked at the guys and said, they probably rock pretty well. Looked at the back, saw some additional backing musicians on here. Were guys from, you got Russ Ballard on here, Michael Desbarnes, and Bruce Turgan from Foreigner. So I said, you know what, I'm going to take a chance. If those guys are involved, it's probably pretty good. And it turned out it was really good. I really enjoyed this. So I want to look in now and see if Phoenix has any more albums, and or if I can track some of their stuff down on CD, because that was a great record. Just, good rock and roll of the 80s kind of a thing, AOR type melodic rock style stuff. Nothing one way or the other. You can kind of understand why it's sort of, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but run of the mill. It was kind of everything that was coming out at the time. But good stuff, I like it. And the record was $1, so I couldn't pass up that, taking a chance on it. And so there you go, 8 things that I picked up there. Ended up getting 5 CDs, 3 records to add to my collection. And next week we're not having, as far as I know, any real new releases come out. I don't have anything on my schedule to be picking up. So I think the following week after that, we're back to getting brand new releases, and at least a lot that I'm looking forward to. So we'll get back into having that kick off these videos with new releases first, followed by all the archival catalog albums and stuff I pick up thereafter. But I hope you guys enjoyed this, and certainly if you did, please remember to comment, like, and subscribe. Don't forget to share this out on social media if you can. Help spread the word for my channel. I'd really appreciate it. All right, everyone, take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.